Welcome to the Rage Quit Wire.
Getting drunk.
Well, not me, but you guys.
John and I are going to be getting pretty hammered this weekend.
Yeah, way to go, you alkies.
We're going to lose to Michael Klein and Brian White, and then we're going to get drunk.
Not gonna lose in a drinking contest.
At least you have your priorities set.
That's right.
Isn't there a trophy for that?
I think there is.
You'll definitely come home with a handful of die.
Yeah, so we got Chris, we got John, and of course we got myself, Pete, here ready to give you some new info. We got a new veteran model drop today, so that was pretty exciing.
Yes, it was.
So
more exciting for you guys than me, but whatever.
John just went from 6 to midnight. So yeah, we're going to talk about Vet Minx today. We're also going to talk about old Jake's Howzat tournament coming up this weekend in Greenville, South Carolina. And a couple things we're going to talk about, just some general news for those of you that are actually going to it here in the Southeast, and a few of our friends traveling from abroad. And then we're also going to talk about just some...
Who the hell's coming from abroad?
I don't know. We're getting some Frenchie coming over.
Oh, we are?
Not really. So, but we're also going to talk about
Making up some fucking lies on our podcast. Why the fuck do we do this?
I don't know. But we're just going to talk also about kind of like the layout, what we noticed, like some of the heavy guilds are being brought to this tournament, and then just some things we expect to see and times to be had this weekend. So, with that being said, I think we're going to get right into Veteran Minx. So, Chris, you're not a Hunters player.
So you want me to kind of give an intro to this?
Yeah, so what do you think?
Guys are going to give your 2 cents?
Yep, I mean, because we'll go you, me, and then we'll talk to the expert hunter here in a minute.
Okay. So, new Vet Minx model, we'll kind of hit some of the highlights. The 2-inch melee is something that I think people will be interested in. Pretty much going to have the same stats as the old model, but some of the abilities are changing. Noticeable ones are there's going to be no free charge now. There's going to be no automatic snare. But we are going to see Minx laying down some traps. These jawbone traps that are unlike the other traps that the Hunters put out. We're going to see a heroic play that lets her use one character play for free. Well, I guess you're paying for the heroic play, so momentum instead of
mostly free
influence. And she has some abilities that affect other models' survivability, I guess, and her survivability. But she, for the most part, is still going to be able to jump all over the board and those types of things.
Yeah, she's still a very mobile model. There's a lot of dodges on her playbook, and it's all momentous, which is beautiful to see. I think the big thing on her card is that sexy 3 damage and 1-inch dodge. That's a sexy thing to see. And then those jawbone markers are going to be interesting. They do damage and they don't put out a snare. So it's another trap, but it's just doing 2 points of damage. So, I mean, you could use that to try and, maybe finish a wounded model off. You could do it just to punish somebody for moving to a certain area of the board. But you can only have a max of 3 of them out. Basically, the only way to put them out is by hitting a model. You can put 1 out for free, I think, a turn. But besides that, you have to hit a model to put them down. So they might be a little trickier to figure out how to use the first couple times we try to use Veteran Minx. The big play is, I think, Marked for Death is going to be a nice setup for the rest of the team. Because basically, any enemy model that's within her melee zone can spend 1 less influence to charge that model, and they gain +2 move if they're charging. So not only is that going to make the hunters more efficient with their influence, it's also going to help them get some distance on those charges. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that's helpful, because I think, John, you can attest that a lot of times you're only bringing 11 and 12 influence on your hunter team, right?
Right. She has to have 2 influence to be considered, really. With the bear bringing none, and I like original Hearn still, only bringing 1. She has to bring 2 especially since she's not doing anything for free anymore except for dropping the trap.
Yeah. So the nice thing about that Marked for Death is the +2 movement means a model like the bear has an 11-inch threat now, at least to the model that she's engaging. So I think a lot of people are going to take Minx and put her on a 1-inch reach model. She's obviously got 2. Try to drop that model down and hit boxes, and then maybe lay out a trap, and then if somebody tries to leave melee, they will have to take the free strike. So they are going to take damage plus a free strike, and maybe that finishes them off to discourage them from moving. That's kind of how I'm thinking that's designed.
Yeah, John, what are your initial thoughts looking at Veteran Minx?
Well, my first thought when I first saw the card, I was a little disappointed because you're losing everything that Minx was great for. You're losing the Furious Charge, you're losing the Snared. But the more I look at the card, the more excited I get because I just have this vision of having Shark with 3 traps around him on 1 hit point, waiting for the next turn to start. Because you can put all 3 traps out in 1 turn.
Yeah, you could, because you could just lay 1 down, you could buy 2 attacks, and you only need 3 hits to get it. So, yeah. I mean, it's very feasible that you could have 3 traps surrounding somebody like Shark, do some damage, and then he either moves or somebody pushes him to take 6 damage.
Yeah, you leave him engaged by the bear intimidating roars him out, 6 damage, and then goes and does something else.
Yeah, so I can definitely see that happening, and it's just, she's going to play very different from her original model, but I think Hunter players are going to enjoy her just because Hunters are in a weird spot right now where they're about to lose their Union models. They're also about to get 2 Falconers that we don't know yet. And we now have Veteran Minx. So I think
super excited for those Falconers.
Yeah, I think she fits a really key kind of like setup piece that I feel like the Hunters have needed. I don't think besides Theron, I don't think they had a great setup piece yet.
Well, she's still a damage dealer setup piece like she was because she had the Screeching Banshee and the marked target, but now it's just a little different. But she still can. The big thing to me is now she has 2 damage momentous on 2, where she didn't get that until 3 before.
True.
So you 5 tack, you can get to 2. You can get 2 hits and do that 2 damage, and do your 8 damage easily, or set up for Jakar. Please let Jakar have a 12-inch threat with 1 influence charge.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's only going to cost, Jakar like 1 influence to charge whatever model she's already engaged with. So it's definitely very useful to the guild. And then the really different thing about her, I think, is, you used to run in, attack, and then get the heck out with her because back to the shadows and you're hitting a momentous result with a dodge. So you're 6 inches away. So now she's in there. Looking at the heightened senses thing, I think it's really fun. It's just you have to find a way to get damage out to the team. Yeah, I mean, but usually there's going to be damaged models on the pitch just from like all the range plays and then the Snapfire and stuff from Egret. So
Flurry will be huge.
Yeah, too. Yeah, just because they're going to be damaged, so you're probably going to have that 5-1 defense and armor most times when she's going into stuff.
Well, and I'm thinking that 5-1 that additional heightened senses character trait that pushes her up to 5 defense is going to be really key for models not easily being able to disengage from her once she wants to keep them within her melee.
And sneakily, her kick stat went up. She's a 3-6 instead of a 2-6 now.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris about that. She's actually got a really good goal threat range just because she's already movement 9. You could Midnight Offering her too if you brought Zerola. And she has a 3-6 kick, which is really great, especially since a lot of Hunters don't have 3-6 kicks. A lot of them are like 2-6 or worse.
Yeah, but I don't think that she'll be an independent scorer on her own just because she doesn't have the momentous tackle result. So it's not like she's going to be charging into somebody, getting the tackle, and then...
I don't know. I could see her going to get a ball. She's definitely more useful than a lot of other Hunters to go get the ball.
I scored a few goals with the original Minx, so it's kind of the same thing. I mean, it can happen. It's not your go-to scorer, but those long threat ranges of Minx and Jakar, it happens.
Oh, it does, for sure. So what are some of the things that you don't like about this model, John? What are some things where it's like, yeah, I kind of wish they would have kept this or, done that differently?
She needs influence. Original Minx, you sit her off to the side. If they don't engage her, she's going to charge somebody from a mile away. But she didn't need that influence because we have a low influence team. But now you want to put 2 to 4 on her and go mark somebody from death, put some traps out and do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, because the other Minx is such a great battery because she brings 2, but you don't have to put anything on her. And you're right, this one you do have, like, to get use out of her, you're going to have to put at least, I feel like, 2 influence on her.
Right. And then she's going to be more up in the middle and in the front to try and engage people, so they're marked for death instead of being, bounced out to the side and kind of safe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you bring her if you're going against the melee team, just because she only has 12 boxes, and I feel like her being up in front like that, she would be, a suspect to basically be abused by a melee team that is trying to take you out of the game.
Right.
So I feel like she's got a stronger play into like a melee team that's trying to score, kind of like Fish, if they're trying to get in there and just get the ball off you. I feel like she's got a better play into those teams and engineers than maybe somebody like Brewers or Farmers.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. She gets attacked. If she's not knocked down, she counters, gets one hit, does damage to you, and her defense goes up one.
Yeah.
I'm happy with 2-inch melee. That's the big thing.
She's gonna feast on models that have a 1-inch melee.
Well, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, that's anybody that has a 2-inch reach, right?
Well, no, because it's just because of what she can do. The fact that she's got that dodge on 1. So if a model is trying to break free from her melee because of the mark for death, if they come into her and think that they're going to be able to bounce out, she's going to just bounce closer to them.
How do you figure?
Because she can counterattack and she's got a...
Yeah, but if they bounce out of her reach, then she's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, but for a 1-inch reach model, the likelihood of that is slim.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're doing that, I think you're doing that with a model that has a better chance of successfully doing that. I don't think you're going to go into her and, with a model that's going to be... if you're planning to dodge out, you're not going to bring in a model that's not going to be able to do it easily.
If you're trying to hit her and you're talking about a 1-inch reach model that's got 5 tack, which is pretty average, and she is now a 5-1, and so because you don't get 2 successes, that means that you're probably never getting to a double dodge or a double push or anything like that. You're not disengaging with her. And
that's what I'm saying is you can just disengage from her by just walking away. You don't need to buy an attack on her.
Well, so that's what I'm considering with the things like the jawbone traps. Basically getting the strike as they exit melee. The parting blow. So when you combine those two things, if she's already done damage because she went into... Basically, almost every time she's interacting with a model, she's going to be able to initiate that threat because she's going to out-threat almost everyone inherently because she's got an 11-inch threat. And so if she's getting into a model first, she's going in there and probably doing damage on them. Thus, she's bumping herself up to the 5 defense. And then you lay out one of the jawbone traps and you lay out a parting blow on them as they exit. You can easily be killing that model, and that's going to discourage them from wanting to exit, period.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is, like, if you're like, oh, well, I might take 4 points of damage, that's better than having the bear with extended range, so you're going to leave anyways. There's no knockdown to really deter you from leaving there, and then you can just heal afterwards anyway. So I get what you're saying. I'm just telling you that if I am marked for death by her, I am not going to be scared to walk away from her and just take the 4 damage from her. That's fine. So, I mean, marked for death is good, but, I mean, it's just like going against anybody else without a knockdown that, you can just walk away from it and you'll take some damage. That's great, but you're not getting charged by the bear, you're not getting charged by Theron or anybody else or Jakar for that extra boost. So, it's just, I think it is what it is. All right, so anything else you guys just think off the cuff? What do you guys think about her heroic play, Blessing the Sunfather, which is great because you get to do a character play for free just by spending momentum.
It's awesome. Every time I play Theron, it's always used. I don't go through Theron's activation without putting Blessing on himself or somebody. So to be able to put that on Egret or on Zarola, it's for momentum instead of influence on an influence-hungry team is great.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you can just spend a momentum to put mark for death up, bare minimum. Yeah,
you get your 4, you put 4 influence on her, get your 4 attacks off, do 8 damage, put a trap down, and mark for death, all in 4 influence. Basically 10 damage and mark for death.
Yeah, we'll take that, I guess, right?
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, why not? Anything else that really sticks out to me? I think she's going to be a solid addition. The last thing that I want to really talk about with her is, what do you guys think? What kind of lineup do you see her going into? So do you like her more with Theron, Scotha, or both? And then we already talked about what matchups we think she'll be stronger into, but what captain do you think she works well with?
I think she can go with either, honestly. I really like her with Scotha and the Bear, because then the Bear with fast ground goes 13 inches. That's just kind of funny.
I would say I like her in my Scotha lineup, because a lot of times I'm looking to do scoring in that. Yeah. And she's another great option to go get the ball, or she's a great option to set up my team to go get the ball. And I think she'll fit really well with Scotha. But then, like you said, I think she works well with Theron too, just because she's setting up damage and, taking people out, which is kind of what Theron loves to do.
Yeah, I don't see her as a fit with one captain or another. I think she's good in either team. And I don't think there's any matchup that she's really bad in. I mean, unless maybe melee teams, because she is going to be one of your softer models with 12 boxes.
Yeah, I think any team that's looking to do takeouts can get an early knockdown. So like Grange probably wouldn't have a problem dropping her. A tapper team might not have a problem dropping her. So I think those teams that are looking to get heavy takeouts, I think you probably might want to think about leaving her at home.
Yeah, the teams that want to be in a big scrum in the middle, she can probably stay out of.
Yeah. So, Chris, you not being a hunter player, what do you think about this model? Just general reactions to it.
I think she'll be irritating. I really think that 5 defense, as soon as she has the circumstance to trigger the heightened senses, is going to be a nightmare. A 5 defense, 1 armor model is a big deal. And she's going to be able to choose which model she's lined up against, because she's going to out-threat almost everyone. So she's going to have favorable matchups. She's not going to go into grain. She's going to go into a model that has 1 inch reach, and she can isolate that model.
Okay. Is this a model that you're looking at and you're just like, crap, how am I going to deal with this?
Yeah, well, especially with as a Butcher's player, she's a nightmare, because I don't get a knockdown that's
accessible.
Convenient. Yeah, or generates momentum or anything like that, like every other melee team does. And it pisses me off that she's so much more productive to the hunters than Gutter is to the Butchers.
Yeah, and the thing that I think probably one of the biggest things that we already touched on once was that she doesn't put out a snare anymore. And that's one thing that the original one was really great with the hunters, because she put out so many snares and she helped reposition and she got out of there, so then she wasn't a liability to get, messed up by close combat teams. I mean, John, how are you going to replace all these snares that, she's not putting out for you now? Because she's going to go away here in May. You're not going to be able to use regular minx. So how are you going to get snares on the board for your team to take advantage of?
I mean, I worried about that at first, and then I realized, there's a lot of lineups I don't take minx in, and it's the same way, it's, getting those shots off with Theron, kind of spreading out snipes and pinned to get his snares out, and then picking who you put that trap by with Jakar. I think that's your there's those, and then you still have, with her blessing, you can put blessing on Zarola and throw the chain bolas, so you have an 8-inch snare threat from range there, and then if you take O'Hearn, you have his skewered.
Or is it possible that you're going to start to bring Chaska more often?
I'm not. Some people might.
I think some people that maybe don't like Chaska might bring him more now, just for that extra, trap that they can throw down and get snared on people.
Yeah, with Chaska, I just think there's not enough influence to go around.
Yeah, he definitely hogs, 4 influence a turn, and, he doesn't get momentum for it unless you put Sunstrike on him. So I get that. But I think this could encourage some people to think about bringing him now to get more snare on the board.
Well, the other aspect, though, is if you're looking at her tying up models, she's most likely going to be doing that. Like you said, if somebody can scrum up against her, that could be a problem. So she's most likely going to be doing that on the edges of the board. If she's tying up those models and giving Chaska extra movement, then Chaska very reasonably can knock those models off the edge of the board.
Well, and she could put Blessing of the Sunfather on Chaska, too, to get a free boombox off of it. So I know one of my arguments was when people talked about, you can do, Blessing of the Sunfather, you can do Sunstrike on Chaska. I was like, well, Chaska's not always next to Theron, but I could see veteran Minx hanging out around Chaska and helping him set up what he wants to do. So I might play around with putting Chaska on the board a little more now. I mean, just to try it out.
You should practice with him this weekend.
That's not going to happen.
And the one other thing that I wanted to mention is for those that are concerned about her losing the Back to the Shadows, I think the Heightened Senses solves that because it makes her more survivable if she stays in that range.
Yeah, I mean, You're not going to probably bring her against Alchemist because they don't need to hit you to put conditions on, so they don't care about that 5-1. Just because Smoke's like, hey, you're poisoned and you're on fire now.
Well, the character plates would still matter.
No, because they auto-hit you with Smoke.
Well, Smoke does, but if you're just putting...
That's what I'm talking about. Against Alchemist, you're not going to probably drop Minx because she'll die pretty easily to conditions.
Do you think you might drop her against Midas?
You're probably going to see Smoke. You're probably not going to see Midas if you're playing Hunters.
Well, that may be the case, but either way, you get to see which captain you're playing.
Yeah, I'd say probably 70% of the time in that matchup, a Hunter player is going to see Smoke over Midas.
But I guarantee you that if you're getting Midas, that you want to take her.
Okay, I mean, that's not what I'm talking about, though.
I don't know. 2-inch melee versus Smoke is very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but, I mean, she just needs to take conditions for, a few turns and then she's dead.
Well, you gotta clear the conditions, but then you can get the bear up in Smoke, and then Smoke goes away, and I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, there's definitely a back and forth that you can do there, right? But I mean, It's just anytime somebody brings like a model that only has 12 boxes against Alchemist, that's kind of rough.
Right.
They usually don't last very long. All right. So, any last minute things about Veteran Minx? I definitely am excited to try her out.
I love the sculpt. I like the sculpt and the fur on the back. I always like the fur on the back because it makes me look like I can actually paint a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that model. It kind of surprised me.
I like it.
They said the glaive was kind of weird, and they didn't like the oversized antlers and helmet. And I'm like, dude, that's what I love about that model.
Oh heck yeah! I mean, I don't know what kind of deer that was, but I like it.
I don't know.
It looks like a ram.
Well, it's got kind of like these. I don't know. It's a weird animal. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it does make me think of Matt Johnson's story about the head in the middle.
Nope. I'm not getting
middle of the field.
Not getting into that. That's a creepy story.
Maybe we should get Matt on to tell that story one of these days.
One of these days, right?
We can have like an episode about crazy things that have happened on road trips.
Okay.
Because, there's some road trips with Guild Ball.
I think that it is time that, we kind of initiate John into the rage quit wire here. And John,
we bring back rage quit stories?
I think it's time for John to share his rage quit story.
We're not going to pussify our podcast just for those people that complain about rage quit stories anymore?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So John, what is your rage quit story that you want to share with us today?
What are you talking about? I've never rage quit. I'm just a happy guy.
It can just be something you experienced as you watched people.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I've actually, I thought about this when I first started coming on, and I was like, you know what? I've never really rage quit Guild Ball because usually when I get pissed, I'm in public at the game store, and I'm like, I'll just, writhe my hands under the table and sit back. But I do have one. It doesn't involve Guild Ball. So, me and Chad one time, we're with the two significant others. We're playing the Game of Thrones board game. It's a really fun game if you haven't played it.
That game is made for some rage quitting.
So it's game night at the house. We got wine and we got food and when we get out Game of Thrones board game, and it's not a short game, so we've had to be playing for like 3 hours. And I'm House Stark and I've got the win set up. I see it. Next activation, I'm taking the last castle. I'm ready to win this game. Because I'm competitive as hell, if you haven't noticed. So I'm getting there. I've got it all planned out. It's got to be like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning maybe. And my significant other and Chad's significant other have like a little deal under the table because they're getting tired and they're tired of playing the game. And mine decides to give her last 2 castles or whatever it is to the other one and just like end the game.
Yeah.
So I'm ready. They go on their turn, and she like one of them attacks the other, and the game's just over for like nothing. I was so pissed. Like I just threw my shit down, went to bed right then and there.
3 hours of work for an unsatisfying ending to Game of Thrones.
Wasting 3 hours of my freaking life.
I will tell you, I have played that Game of Thrones board game. I wish that I got to play that game more because it is a really, really well done game. And the ultimate rage quit built-in mechanic in that game is when somebody lets you use their ships to travel all the way across the board, and then when you think they're going to let you use their ships to get back to where you needed to be, they're just like, nope, you can't use them anymore. Yeah. And you're like, well, shit, all of my ships are in Dorne.
Yeah, I've actually heard some really rough stories coming out of that game, just like how bad you can get screwed over.
Oh, yeah. It's sort of like playing Diplomacy, but I think a better game than Diplomacy is.
Okay.
So I wish that there was a way that you could play that game in like a competitive tournament style, but obviously it's not. It's kind of a standalone type of board game. But that's a really great game. I really like playing that game.
Yeah, I haven't played it since.
It's the TGI Fridays of board games.
Oh my god, I was so mad.
Well, thanks for
die everywhere.
Thanks for sharing that, John.
Yeah.
Whose game was it? Like, who actually brought the board game?
Chad.
Does Chad still have it?
Oh yeah, Chad's the game master. If there's a board game out there, he's got it.
We might have to convince him to like bring it out sometime just to see your reaction.
You have to get the best rage quitters that you know in that, because that game will make somebody rage quit.
I will be like, fuck you, I'm out.
I also played that game with a friend that he believes in a principle of randomness in how he does any gaming. So in it, you have certain cards that you can play at key moments, and you're supposed to look at the cards to be able to select the ones and reserve the ones for the right times, right? This guy just draws them randomly and somehow always pulls correctly, even though he's shuffling the cards, so he has no idea what he's picking, and it's just infuriating.
Jeez.
Nothing like losing to a general that just has all the dumb luck in his favor.
That's how I'm going to play my game plan cards this weekend.
You know, you also could let some random kids that you've never met before help choose your
cards for you, yeah.
Oh, he's never going to live that down.
No, never ever.
So, looking at the tournament that is this weekend, we got Old Jake's Howzat. It's in Greenville, South Carolina this Saturday. It's going to be in a brewery, which is going to be awesome. So, I think it's the Birdfly South Ale Project, whatever it is.
Yep.
Is that all right? So, it's going to be a fun time. I think we got close to 58, 60 signed up, something like that. So, first thing I wanted to do was share just a couple notes, because I actually talked to Jake not too long ago here.
You mean while you were making our asses wait to record
this? That's right. So, Jake's top priority. So, looking at it, there's a couple things you wanted me to put out just for if anybody listens to this podcast before the tournament, just some things that you might want to know just so we can get this thing off the ground and have it be as successful as possible.
Show up fucking early.
So, yeah, first thing is just that try to be there at 9 because he's going to have to get everybody registered, and if he can get started as close to 9:30 as possible, that's going to be ideal.
Because the tournament is going how long?
Because we got 6 rounds, and we want to get it cooking, and that way we can get our drinking going, and it's going to be a good time. So, yeah, be there as early as possible, as close to 9 as you can. Have your stuff ready, get registered, get your bag, and just move down the line. We want to take off 10 the latest, so we want to get started before then, but that's the latest we're going to get started, so you need to be there early. Something else that he said is it's supposed to kind of rain on Saturday. It's going to be a little cooler, be like in the low 60s, I think is the high. So just make sure it's going to be heated in there, but just make sure you bring a jacket, because if you got to go to the bar, or if you got to go, to the taco shop to get you some food, you want to make sure that you have something keeping you warm. Don't be like Chris when we went to Asheville when it's like about to snow and he didn't even bring a jacket and he's wearing shorts and shit.
Listen, I live in Charleston, so
It's the mountains.
I don't know that shit.
It was the mountains, and it was that time of the year where it could snow, and Chris didn't look at the weather.
This happened when I went to Greenville, too, that one time.
It did. And Chris was like, it's cold as all hell here.
So I did what any responsible adult would do. Steal Pete's jacket and just wear it.
That's right. I had an extra jacket, because I'm like your dad, apparently.
I guess you're definitely cleaning up the shit that I lay down frequently.
So make sure that you bring something kind of warm, just because, you don't want to be getting soaking wet and then come back and play your game all wet.
Or run your bar tab up and be warm that way.
There you go. And another big thing is you can bring snacks and stuff. The taco shop's going to be open, but that's going to probably be busy most of the day. So in between rounds, if you want to bring your own food, you can definitely bring it. I think he's going to try to get some pizza ordered in, so that way you can buy a slice through them. And just remember, don't be that guy that gets so drunk you can't play Guild Ball and you get kicked out of the brewery. So that's looking at you, John.
I hold my alcohol really well.
That's what every drunk says.
That's true. I mean, that's just the notes that he put out. And the last thing I want to do for the podcast, this is going to be kind of a shorter episode, but I did want to talk about just kind of, you see a tournament, especially this size, and you kind of look at the layout of all the guilds, and just wanted to kind of see what were some kind of maybe tips that you guys had going into a tournament. What are some things you want to look at with a different layout of the guilds? So looking at the layout right now, the top 3 guilds that are bringing the most players for this tournament are going to be Hunters are number 1 with 9 Hunter players, so that's awesome. Led by John and myself. We got Fishermen at 6. We have Union at 6. So those are the top 3 guilds. So now that you go, okay, those are the top 3 guilds, what are your guys' initial reactions when you see that going into a big tournament like this?
Well, it's the Southeast, so we knew Hunters were going to lead the way.
That's true. We like our hunting down here.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is each one's going to present like a very different playstyle, right? Like the Hunters players are primarily going to be you having to deal with a control team, although we all know that we can cater lists to other things.
Let's look at Hunters real quick, because there are 9 Hunters players, but what's the difference between somebody who's, good with the Hunters versus somebody who's like, hey, I'm just having fun, or I just picked these up and want to play with them?
The ones who just pick them up and want to play with them take Jaska and try and push everybody off the pitch.
Okay. So they're not as efficient with
also,
their
they take
plays?
the bear and they don't bring enough other models that give them good influence.
Okay.
Right.
So, but how would you recognize that? Like, you get matched up with a random Hunter player, and how do you be like, okay, is this a Hunter game that I can just steamroll this Hunter player, or is this a good player that's going to give me a terrible time?
I think the key is you look up the player on Longshanks before you sit down and see where their ranking is.
So, funny enough, you have to be subscribed to Longshanks to do that now.
Yeah, but you know what you can still do? Look at where the players are ranked before they come into the tournament.
Okay, so you're like, okay, John Stokes is ranked, number blah, 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 so he's probably good with his Hunters. Okay, that's a way to do it, I guess. Yeah, so we got a lot of Hunters, so I think you got to be prepared to deal with pins. What are you going to do about all the snares? Do you have a model that can clear conditions? So I think seeing Hunters, that's something you need to be like, okay, do I have something in my lineup that can clear conditions for me? Because I know, John, you're probably the same as me. There's certain models where when you see them drop, you're like, okay, well, this is going to be hard to keep my conditions out.
No, actually, if you're snared, it's not that bad. It's only -1 defense, only -2 movement. Just leave it on there. Don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. It doesn't hurt you. There's no damage.
We don't need your filthy lies and propaganda on the podcast. We're trying to help people.
I'm trying to win. I know. Screw people.
Screw you. You already got a ticket to SteamCon.
So?
Fuck off. So you want to bring models like Hemlock is good against Hunters. Vet Harmony, Esther's. You start getting models that can just clear conditions. It's good against the Hunter, so definitely bring those. Okay, what about Fish? If you see, we got 6 Fisherman players here. What do you need to be successful against that guild in a tournament like this?
You need to have a plan of what you're going to do with the ball.
Okay, so hiding the ball. So have a good model to hide the ball on.
Have a good model. Know you're going to put it in the corner and drop it. Just know where you're going to go with it.
Okay. What do you think, Chris? If you see all those Fish players, what are you going to do?
with the fish players, I mean, they want to score. So now my mindset on this has really changed. So people can take it or leave it. And I'm sure that most people are going to leave it because every time I say something on here, they hate it. But
they love to hate you, Chris.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So I think that it is a waste of time to take a goalie that is going to up the TN test or has countercharge or any of that type of thing, especially against the highest scoring teams, because I think that those goalies are really easy to work around, and then you have a model that's just kind of pinned in the back that doesn't end up doing much. And especially with the fish, where they have a high enough dice pool, they're usually going to be able to hit even with the higher TN number, or they're going to be able to get within 4 inches to get the snap in, or the snapshot. Sorry, not the snapshot. Sorry, my brain's not working. It's light.
Yeah.
The tap in.
Tap in, there you go.
That's the word.
I would agree with you, except for Compound. I feel like Compound's still a really good goalie just because of horrific odor and the countercharge and gluttonous mass. So I agree with you a lot on some of the goalie stuff you said, but Compound is still a really good goalie just because of the three things that I mentioned. So
I think that a really skilled...
Well, see, the thing is, you can say that, like a really skilled player can get around these things, but you can do that with anything. The point is, it makes it more difficult for your opponent to work around, and the more steps you put in between them getting the goal,
okay, let's make
the
this,
less likely those goals.
Let's make this real simple. Don't bother taking a goalie if you play Gabe.
I don't know. I don't agree with that.
I don't think that. I think that goalie will work against you.
Plus, Compound also, and I'm just focusing on this because I played Alchemist the other day. Compound's also not a model you have to sit by the goal. He's actually not a bad model to put the ball on. I had him in the middle of the pitch the other day after kind of the board started to develop, and I had the ball on him, and basically it's like, okay, come get it. I have horrific odor up. I have gluttonous mass up. Come and get the ball. And then I get a counterattack and push you out, and then there we are. So, I mean, I agree with some of the stuff you said, but I still think that it's important to have steps that they have to go through to get that goal. If you just leave the goal open, it's like, okay, they just get a free goal, and now you got to deal with that. So, I don't know. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, don't leave the goal open.
Yeah.
Great advice.
They pulled the goalie!
I think you leave the goal open and try to prevent them from scoring future goals in other ways other than a goal.
So give up the one and then just hope they don't get the ball back?
Or you play a game where you push up the field to where they have to come back to their side to even get the ball off of you.
Or you play Engineers double goalie and you double up on it.
Oh.
That's some hot new tech from
okay, so those five engineers players can do that.
Some people love that list. I've seen it.
Great advice. Write that down, Josh.
Yeah, Josh, play that one. Let's see it. Hey, Chad's getting into Engineers. Maybe he should try the double goalie list.
I've told him it would be fun.
All right, now here's the real thing. You see Union dropped, against you. Who's the one captain they're probably going to drop?
Rage.
That Rage.
Frequently.
Yeah.
Unless you get Jacob, then he's only going to drop.
Whoa, don't spoil Jacob's tech now. He has some super secret squirrel stuff going on there.
Squirrels?
Right. Yeah, Jacob's going to take the tournament by storm on Saturday. Let me tell you.
How many games has Jacob played total?
3.
Okay. Yeah, super secret tech. Yep.
I hope he likes beer.
That's right. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a good time. So, yeah, you see Union, you got to prepare for Vet Rage. So, how do you stop Vet Rage? What's something you guys do where it's like, okay, I got to derail this pain train? How do you do that?
Spread out.
Spread out for sure. Score. So go for a scoring list against it.
Okay.
2-inch reach. Tie him up with 2-inch reach.
Control missed and then go score.
Yeah, I think
if you have a way to take blind.
Yeah, blind's definitely good. The problem with blind, though, is if you blind Rage, he's just doing Red Fury then, and he's not affected by it. So I don't know if blind's quite the answer. It makes it more challenging, maybe, for him. Kind of like you said, though, a more skilled player probably can work around that. I think spreading out's the biggest thing. maybe trying to bait them into going a certain direction. If you have Goad, I think Goad is really good against a Vet Rage team.
Sure.
Because that makes you decide on where they're going to go, and that's never good for Rage. He wants to kind of set the pace.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's definitely a tough matchup, though, because he's a good captain. I mean, and he's flexible for a melee team.
Yeah, definitely look at somebody's list before you get going, so you know whether or not they're taking Rage and Blackguard or Rage and Brisket 3.
I really want to see some Seabiscuit this weekend.
I know you're going to see at least one Seabiscuit.
Oh, no. Squirrel Tech.
Yep. Secret Squirrel Tech. Hashtag Trisket.
You only need 2 goals and a takeout.
That's right. 2 goals and a
takeout.
So,
of those 6 players that are playing Union, it's kind of interesting because you have Mike Klein and Matt from Greenville.
Yeah.
And both of them are good Union players. And then the other 4 Union players are
not ranked.
Ranked like they've never played a tournament game, and so they're 50 and below.
Yeah,
as far as like the rankings of this tournament. So,
I really hope that I do play Mike on Saturday, just because I want to see how other metas use Union. He says he has a couple things for me, so I'm really excited to see what he has. He's like, I'm going to show you how to use Benediction, all that trash you've been talking about him. I was like, that's fair. I mean, I've seen the light, though, since, we talked trash on Benediction. To be fair, every time I've dealt with Benediction, I've stomped him into the ground with Brewer, so...
I think the biggest guilds that people are going to have to prep for as it relates to where the players currently stand in rankings plus the guilds that are being played are obviously the Hunters.
Yeah, so...
Because those Hunters players, there's 9 Hunters players, and they're toward the top end for the most part.
So if somebody asks me, what guilds do I need practice against kind of going into Saturday, I would say Hunters, yeah, if you've never played against them, you need a game against them, because otherwise they're going to mess you up. Alchemists, if you haven't played against them, same thing. And then finally, Morticians. If you haven't played against those 3 guilds, actually Engineers might be in that too, but if you haven't played against those 3 guilds, you really need to get some games in against them, because they will mess your day up and ruin all the plans that you want to do. So I think that's a really good advice for anybody that's like brand new going into this thing, or even somebody who just hasn't seen that in their meta. Get some practice real quick against them, and because they'll mess your day up.
At least read some cards.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe watch some battle reports. Vincent Kirchhoff has a lot of good tech on Alchemists. There's a lot of good Hunters, videos out there. So yeah, just kind of see what those guilds do, because you'll get surprised by them. I mean, they're very tricky when you play against them.
Can we also mention that how few farmers there are?
Yeah, there's only 4 there now, right?
I think everyone's just scared that they're not good anymore since that nerf, even though you could still play Grange and wreck people.
I have some insider information that one of those farmers is going to play Masons. So 3 farmers.
I already know which player. It's going back to the old faithful, huh?
3 farmers out of 60?
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, I think people are just scared off by that nerf. I don't actually think that nerf did as much damage as people.
I think it totally did.
Good. I still hate the matchup.
No, even the Grange list, I see a lot of problems against certain matchups. Grange is still very dangerous against a lot of matchups, but there are other ones where it's like Grange has a real tough climb to beat. So it's just they have good counters now, which is a good balance to that guild.
Still, I think that there's an overreaction as far as the numbers, the total number of players in this tournament that are willing to take the farmers versus where the farmers are at.
No, I think that's where the farmers are at.
You think the farmers are the worst team in Guild Ball?
No.
Okay, because according to the number of players that are playing them, they would be.
Okay, so Masons are the worst players in Guild Ball too?
That's my point.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that by like, oh, there's only 2 players playing this guild, so they must be the worst.
I'm not making that argument. I'm making the argument. I'm making the other argument. the argument that they're better than the way people are responding based on the number of...
That's like saying, oh, look how awesome hunters are. There's 9 players playing them.
They are fucking awesome.
They are. They're... Okay, let's not, jump the shark here. They're good. They're a solid guild, but they're not anywhere. They're not.
Was there not a hunter versus hunter matchup at a SteamCon qualifier just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, but those two guys are scrubs, man. They got lucky.
Yeah, I'm just okay.
I mean, that John Stokes guy. Am I right?
Yeah, he's rolling loaded dice.
He is. And I roll in my dice tray, and I have a little button I hit where they'll just flip right over to a 6.
They're magnetized.
Yep.
Yeah. So those farmers, I think, are still really solid, and I think that it's disproportionately low that only 3 players are going to play them.
Yeah. So I mean, they're just less forgiving now. There was times because I played them at the dojo when we had that event that John and I were at, and I played Grange both games I played. I had to leave early, and that engineers matchup is so hard for farmers to win with. It's just that's probably the worst matchup for farmers, and it's tough just because your defense is so low and they can just push you around, and it's just hard to deal with. I mean, it was a tough matchup for sure, and Fish is another matchup where I think they have a tough time with now, and it's just tough. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's just some bad matchups for farmers. I think you're just biased because they spank butchers a lot.
Like Grangeless is disproportionately good against butchers.
Everybody spanks butchers.
So guilds that have 5 people playing them: the alchemists, the blacksmiths, the brewers, the butchers. Those guys are going to have a rough day. The engineers, and apparently with this insider info from John, the masons will also have 5. Oh, and the morticians. So most of the guilds have 5 players, so you will be encountering them.
I think it's actually, besides the hunters, it's a really even spread. It's just, I think it's going to be a good tournament. You're probably not going to run into the same guild more than twice. And that guild will probably be hunters. You'll probably face 200 players throughout the day.
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate. Especially as the day goes on, if you're winning, you're definitely going to encounter them because they're so good.
Why do you think they're so good?
I don't know. Because at a SteamCon qualifier, the final table was 2 hunters players.
Or can we just say it's 2 good players that just know how to run that guild well?
By chance stumbled upon the same guild and then played them very similarly.
I mean,
it'd have been just the same if I was playing butchers.
Played them basically in mirror lineups. Yeah, it's just by chance.
Maybe John and I should start playing butchers, and then we'll meet at the head table with butchers.
I guarantee you'll have honestly, we'll see. I'm actually kind of interested to see how Mike does with those butchers because I know Mike is pretty good with them. But the thing is, I think that Mike is taking those butchers because he knows that he's going to be drinking that day. So he's just like,
well, and I think that's also a good thing to go with is that this is a 1-day 6-round event. So this is, testing your mettle. And I think it's important to go with a guild that you're comfortable with because if you play something that you're not as familiar with, you're going to make a lot more mistakes, especially in that 4th, 5th, and 6th round. Well,
you know what I think would be a more fun activity here is if we look at some of these top guys that are showing up and then instead of talking about which guilds you need experience against, we can talk about which guys on this list you think will drop out by the end of the day because they'll just have had way too much fun throwing some back.
The Drunken Master, I would say for sure.
I think Mike, John.
I don't know. No. Defend yourself, John.
I live in Beer City, USA. I can handle it.
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll find out. But I mean,
you ain't gonna find out. You're gonna be hanging out with Daddy.
Yeah,
6 rounds.
He's gonna.
My dad is coming to visit.
He's gonna go on a harbor cruise with his dad.
No, it's not a harbor cruise. It's we're doing a charter fishing boat. We're gonna go and catch some of those big reds.
Missing out on some prime guild ball action.
I know. He's decided to surprise me with my brother, so we're gonna be charter fishing and doing the UFC fights later that night. I'm bummed about that. Anyway,
I think so. Here's what I'm going to be very interested to see.
The axe throwing, yes.
Yes, so the axe throwing. But
the drunken
stupor is going... Just imagine, picture this, if you will. Let's just say it's Brian White and Michael Klein on the final table, okay?
Okay.
Got those two on the final table. Rematch from Nova, a little over a year ago. Or no, it wasn't over a year ago. It was only, 8 months ago, I guess? Whatever. Anyways, rematch, okay? Mike's now playing Union. There's a group of drunken stupor around them, cheering them on as they play Guild Ball. That would be awesome.
Or nobody's watching because they're all throwing axes.
That might happen too.
Yeah. The point is, this is a first-time event, so it could go a number of ways, and we're about to find out how that's going to play out.
Also, just a little heads up, I'm planning on doing a little live streaming, probably on Friday, just kind of show the event, and I'm also going to bring the old camcorder, record some of the matchups, and just kind of show the environment, just to see kind of what everybody's missing that didn't come down to this thing. That way, next year when we throw this thing, they're going to hopefully come down to it.
If Pete and I end up playing, it will definitely be recorded with live shit talking.
Yeah, we're not even going to put commentary on it when I post it on YouTube. I'm just going to post it as is.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's pretty much what we do with
John and I
podcast,
talking shit about how terrible we're playing.
With beer bets in the middle of the game.
So speaking of beer bets, okay, Jake wanted me to make sure that I put this out. So this was directed at me personally. Okay, so let's set it up with that. So what Jake told me is that for every player in the Charleston meta that doesn't show up to this tournament, I owe Jake 1 beer.
Oh.
And what's his side of it?
No, there's no side. It's just if I have people that don't show up.
Oh, this is just like a one-sided claim.
He's like, you better bring all your people because
That's not a
every
bet.
Charleston person that doesn't show, you owe me a beer. So I was like, so I already owe you 3. How's that fair?
Wait. Didn't we have a bet from way back when of who was bringing more, Asheville or Charleston?
I'm going to owe you probably a beer from that just because I think we got Chris backed out. That was great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm probably going to have 5, 6 counting Klein.
Ooh, we're close.
Why do you get to count Klein?
Because
he said I get flying into South Carolina.
He said I get to claim him because I'm the one that pressured him to come down.
I hate to tell you, I think we're at 6.
All right. Well, I guess everybody wins.
Yay.
The other thing that I think needs to be brought up is definitely Jake has pulled some major strings to be able to host this event where he's located it, and that brewery has gone out of their way to make it a great event for all of these guys, and so we want this event to be able to play out for years to come. So please,
here's my challenge to the southeastern meta. Ready? And Michael Klein, because we'll bring him on in too. So the challenge is we have to meet our tap. Right? We gotta basically meet that, but I want to exceed it, but do it responsibly, So let's make sure that we're tipping the waitresses, bartenders, make sure that, you're having your drinks, having your fun, and let's just make this an awesome event.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Please take care of the employees there, tip them well, but at the same time,
be responsible.
Don't go so crazy that they're like, we can't have these guys back.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to be the problem.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Our community. So, but I think it needs to be said, so I'm saying it.
Don't spill your beer on my clock.
Oh, for the love of God, don't spill on the mats and stuff. People have brought their personal stuff in. Make sure that you're being responsible.
That's another thing is for those that are bringing materials to set up, please make sure to show up early specifically so you have time to set all that up.
If you can, I know, just contact Jake because I'm bringing my stuff up Friday. So if he wants you to bring it up Friday, just kind of contact him and see what he needs. I think Steamforge is trying to help us out with mats, so that'd be great if that shows up on time. But I mean, it's going to be a fun event regardless. And you get to use your final round drinking mug at the brewery, so that's going to be awesome. So, John, before we sign off, what are you most excited for at this tournament?
New dice from drinking beer.
Oh, God, yes.
In case you don't know, every time you buy a beer, you get a dice or a die until they run out.
Yep. So
and it's a different style of die than the ones that they are giving out for the tournament as a whole.
Yep.
I really wish that I would be able to be up there and see all of that axe throwing. It just reminds me of the old adage that it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt, and then it's just all fun.
Yeah, so let's not have any hospital visits with the axe throwing, right?
I don't know why they came up with
throw your axes responsibly.
Those two elements, but hey, awesome. They live life on the wild side.
All right, guys. Well, I think with that being said, let's roll some dice and throw some salt and have some fun on Saturday.